Good morning, everyone. It's Brenda Quintana here, and I'm live from the Beehive this morning. It's a gorgeous day right now. The sun is shining, but because I think it's almost too gorgeous, we must be punished if it's too gorgeous. I think we're going to have thunderstorms later on. So I am going to, right after my Facebook Live, I'm going to rush out this morning and go do some shopping so that I don't have to get caught in any downpours. But I'm just going to blab for a moment and wait for people to find me and get on. I know when I go live, it doesn't mean like you don't know that I'm going to go live. Well, you know that I'm going to go live, but it doesn't give you a chance to, start. When I start, it always like sends out a message and then people take a while to get logged on. So I know it always takes a while for a few people to get here. So I end up talking to myself for a bit. If you're watching this and this is a recording, then you're going to be like, why does she talk so long at the beginning? Well, the reason is when I do the live portion, it takes a while for people to get on, and I really like to have a few people on here with me because it's a little bit more fun. So if you have questions while I'm doing this, please just post them, or if you have a comment or something, I do read the comments. Even if I don't read them live, I do read them afterwards. I do everything on my phone. Some demonstrators have it set up so that they can, have an iPad and they read stuff. I haven't got that set up yet, and maybe I should, because I end up sometimes looking down my nose at you because I have reading glasses built into my glasses, and I am blind as a bat otherwise. So if glasses had not been invented, I would not be a paper crafter because I couldn't see a thing. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. So anyway, today is Tuesday, and it's the day when we take a card out of the catalog and we give it a makeover. Not that the card in the catalog was a bad card. It's because it's a great starting point to create a card from. And some people, always think that they need to, reinvent the wheel, or, and that's why they, it takes them a long time to stamp a card. Or it also like puts, like they decide not to stamp a card because they're like, oh, I have to think of an original idea. Well, guess what? You don't. You can go into the catalog, you can go on Pinterest, and you can take a card and use the mechanics, the basics of the card, and use that as your starting off point for creating your own card. And I love that because when you go online to our Facebook group, you will see, we have a group of bloggers, you will see that there is a great variety in what happens after you take that card and you make it over. There's a lot of different styles that happen. And then there's some people, if you really like the card and you have that stamp set, go ahead and copy it exactly. That is skill in itself. It helps you figure out all the different parts of the card that went into it. Sometimes you don't notice the minute details of a card from a photo, and when you start to really look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that had an embossing folder in the background, or oh, I didn't notice there was thread in the background. So it gives us a chance to like really study a card well, so you learn through doing. So if you're interested, if you're new, if you're like, what is she talking about? We do have a Facebook group, and you can look down in the description of this video, and it has a link directly to our Facebook group. You can join it, and it will you will be able to see what we do each week. Each week it's a different card. We all do the same card out of the catalog. One of the current Stampin' Up! Catalogs. Right now we're finishing off the year with the 2017-2018 annual catalog. And I just got a question on the group today. Someone asked me, oh, are you starting out the new catalog? And no, we do not start the new catalog until June. The reason for that, well, one of the reasons, the products aren't available yet, and so that's just not fun for customers. But the other reason is we're not allowed to show the inside of the catalog until June. So we can't actually take a photo of that's in the catalog, or you know, take the catalog and show it. So we don't do that yet. So we're still working off the end of the catalog, the old catalog, until the end of May. So no worries if you don't have the new catalog yet. It is still the old catalog, and also we post the photo on the Facebook group, so you can go just right off of that photo even if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Catalog in hand. That was a lot of information. So I am going to turn the camera around so that you can see the card that we're casing today and my card that I made with it, and then I'll show you how to stamp it. So let me just do a flip around, and welcome to everyone that's joined me already. Thank you for coming. Let me flip. Here's my view this morning. Isn't that pretty? It's like a really pretty time of year. Things are starting to green up. We still, in a bit, it will be even greener. And if you join me in August, it's really pretty. The middle of the river over there, there's a purple loosestrife, and it's just so gorgeous with all the colors. I love that time of year. So let me turn this around, facing down. So here's the card for today. Let me kind of bring it into focus here. It is this thank you card. It's got an oval focal point. You don't have to do an oval. I saw someone this morning using a different shape punch for her greeting, and I really liked her card too. And some people turned it from landscape mode to portrait mode, so that's also really cool. And then basically you just kind of layer the oval on top of a bunch of little tiddly bits, like there's leaves, there's so she's got this artist did washi tape, some rhinestones, maybe not rhinestones, those faceted gems. So it just really, they layered up this oval. So what I did with it was I did the oval. I did a big oval because my greeting was a little bigger, and then I just kind of added flowers to it. So it's a little bit different. I used a different embossing folder in the background, but I really like the way it turned out. The one thing I want to talk about that came across the Stampin' Up! Newsfeed this morning, and I didn't know about this. This was not really planned, but it actually worked out well. This stamp set, Color Me Happy, they just announced that it's going to be retiring. It wasn't on the retiring list. It was kind of a standalone thing that they brought out when they brought in the Stampin' Blends. And that whole, the stamp set, and there's a kit that goes along with it, it will all be retiring at the end of the month. So if you like the stamp set, if you like the thank you I used today, make sure that you get it before the end of the month. Certain things are going to be while supplies last. So like the kit will be while supplies last. I think they will keep the stamp sets available until May 20-something, and then they go on while supplies last too. So if you like it, don't wait too long to get it, just in case it sells out. So that's the Color Me Happy. And I have links to the stamp set on my blog post, and my blog post, the direct link is also in the description of my video. So for this card, the best way to attack it, or to start making it, I think, is to do the big shot work. So let me pull that out. It's actually pretty easy. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got my, let me turn this around so it's not going the wrong way. Let me put that into the camera more. So this is the Big Shot platform. I need the thin die adapter. I need a cutting plate, and I'm going to be using the largest layering ovals framelit. And then I just need a scrapped piece of Whisper White. I actually used thick Whisper White here because it's going over top of the embossing, and I just felt like it needed to be a little bit more substantial than the thin, just to hold up to that. So let me just run that through. This time I'm going to do my cutting before I do my stamping, because it is a big, like I will be able to get the greeting on here no problem. Sometimes it's easier to do the stamping first and then the cutting, but this time I'm going to do just the cutting first. So that's that. then you also need to do embossing. So we need to get rid of this thin die adapter. So let's get rid of that. We're on the base platform now. I'm going to use my Layered Leaves embossing folder. And this is a piece of Pool Party cardstock. It is the card base for my cardstock. I've cut it to 8.5 by 5.5 and scored it in half at the 4¼ inch mark. It's kind of important that you score it before you emboss it, because I'm going to use this score line as a guide to where I put my embossing folder. So this is a thick embossing folder, so just remember we only use one cutting plate for that. So let me just line this up. The edge of the embossing is about maybe 1/8 of an inch in. So I'm kind of looking in the light here. You probably can't even see this, but I'm just lining up my embossing folder right against, or the pattern of the embossing folder right against my score line. And then I'm going to put it down like that. I can get rid of one of the cutting plates because it won't go through the Big Shot with two. It just needs one. Just put it on there, and then I'm just going to run that through. Always makes a big hook. And there is the really pretty Layered Leaves embossing folder. And that just adds so much to the card right from the get-go that I don't have to do quite as much frou-frou stuff on my card, because this is so nice. All right, so then we need the oval, we need the thank you, and I'm going to use Bermuda Bay ink. These are still the old style ink pads. I will be replacing all of my ink pads. I'm going to do it slowly. I think and you don't have to replace your ink pads because we have the new style. I'm doing it because I want to show everyone what's currently available when I stamp, right? So that's kind of the important thing for me. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball this and center it. I actually did trim my stamp around the edges a little bit, because that way I can see a little bit better where I'm stamping. See how I kind of trimmed the edges? Oh, and I have to show you something in a moment. I forgot to show you this last week because I was showing too many things last week, but let me set that aside for a moment. Let me finish my stamping first before I show you. And then I actually used thin Whisper White, my regular Whisper White for this one, for the little flower. I don't know why. I could have used thick as well. But because I'm attaching the flowers to here, I felt like it didn't need to be as thick. And I just like I feel like the thinner Whisper White has a little bit more of a smooth finish on it. The thick Whisper White, you can color on it too, but it's so smooth on the regular Whisper White. I'm using the Crushed Curry ink pad. And I'm using the flower. All of these stamps that I'm using are from the Color Me Happy stamp set. And I'm just going to stamp this twice. And so what did I not want to forget? Well, let me just shove this aside for a second. So we have this new thing that's coming out. It is a chamois that is just quite lovely. That will be in the new catalog, and people have been using chamois for a while. I love this size because it fits in one of our skinny stamp cases, so I can just leave it in here and it's, you know, good to go. At the beginning of the day when I do my stamping, I just rinse this out. It will get stained with ink. Who cares? Some people don't like that. I'm like, as long as my stamps are clean, I don't care if my chamois is clean. So I'll just rinse this out at the beginning of the day. Yes, it will get stained with ink. But one thing that you can do to maybe keep this not quite as inky is I still love our Stamp and Scrub. And actually this is, let me grab my correct Stamp and Scrub. This is the Stamp and Scrub I use at my desk all the time. This is the Stamp and Scrub that you would get if you ordered it from the catalog. It has a sunny side and it has a wet side. And so when I clean my stamps now, Before I just used my Stampin' Scrub. Now I do a little bit more. I like my stamps really clean. Some people don't care, but I really, really love mine clean. And especially with the photopolymer, I had a hard time keeping those things clean. And I know they get stained, but still they had ink on them, and then they would lose some of their like stickiness. And so sometimes I'd have to run to the kitchen to run them underwater, and that was an extra step. So I love this new chamois. So this is how I clean my stamps now. I take my Stampin' Mist and I take my stamp. Usually I stamp my stamp off. I usually am stamping on scrap paper, and I usually stamp it off to get some of the ink off. But let's pretend I've already done that. So I'm just going to clean it on here, dry it here, and then I just dab it into my chamois, and now it is like super clean. I just love that. I mean, it's, I don't know, especially with the photopolymer, it's just making me really, really happy. It's making me want to use my photopolymer more. So you can see, even though I had cleaned it on here, you can see it took off some of the yellow, and it is nice and clean. It gets into those nooks and crannies because you can squeeze down, and it gets rid of the ink that got into the nooks and crannies. Anyway, I think this is going to be super popular, and I quite like it a lot. So I just wanted to show you that. That will be in the annual catalog starting in June. So there is that. That's an aside. Let me finish this card off for you. So I've got the Stampin' Blends. Now, right now, our Stampin' Blends are not orderable. They will be, Stampin' Up! Says by the end of May, we should be able to start ordering them. They are starting to fulfill the back orders that we had. They took a little while for people to warm up to them because they just wanted to make sure that the quality was there. But I love these guys. I really, really do. I stopped using them for a couple months while they were on back order, but I feel now I can just start to use them again because we're going to have them available again soon. So I wanted to show you how I would color this. This is really easy coloring. So I'm using my dark Pool Party. There is a Bermuda Bay Stampin' Blends, but it would be too dark to fill in the thank you. So I'm just going to go in with my brush tip, and I am just filling in this thank you. I love when you lift up, you don't get those little dots like you do with other markers, like even with our regular markers. You know how when you lift up, that last little bit seems to get that extra bit of ink. This blends so nicely that you don't get that. And that's why alcohol markers are cool. Also, you can blend colors together. You can add, let me get that right there. I'm not going to be doing any shading on this, but you could go back in and darken. I would darken right here, you know, like the insides a little bit. I would do that. But for the interest of camera and time, I'm just going to come through and just color this nice and easy like that. And you know, I'm doing this while I'm standing up, so you know, I'm not even really that close to my project. So you know that you could color this really easily. If I can do this standing, this is like pretty easy. And I've had these now since November. They're still nice and inky. And I haven't had to replace them. So I love Stampin' Blends. So they've done a good job for me. This is the Light Daffodil Delight. And I'm just going to come in and just color this. I'm not doing any shading on these. This is like fast and easy for me today. There's a lot going on this card, so I'm not bothering with creating extra details. So you would go ahead and do both flowers. I won't do that on camera here, but we'll just stick that aside. And then what I did is I took those two flowers, and yes, I had to fussy cut them, but they're pretty easy. That's the only thing you had to cut by hand, and it's a fairly easy shape to come around and do quickly. So I felt like most people would not be upset by that. And if you don't like that, then get one of your die cut flowers. I'm sure you have an outline flower. So I'm just going to line these up on here, and I'm going to cover these little kind of, I don't know what you call them, not exclamation marks, but like I don't know, accents. So I'm just going to come in and just see how do I want to line these up so that they cover those. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Tombow in the corner like that, and then this one will have a bit of Tombow in the corner here like this. All right, so now I want to add some leaves behind here. So I love this leaf punch. It's like really handy dandy because you can punch your leaves really quickly. So you would just take, I've taken Pear Pizzazz cardstock, and I'm just going to come in from this side and punch a leaf. You will need 4 of them. Okay. Oh, and someone just said that they got their back-ordered Stampin' Blends yesterday. So yay, that's awesome that they are starting to ship those. And people are starting to get them. So now you just kind of need to arrange the leaves back there. I like to do this before I adhere everything on. So I just put a little bit of glue on the stem, and then I'm just going to arrange this. You need to look at your design to make sure it doesn't go too far off the card if you're going to be sending it, right? Because you don't want to have a design that you can't put in an envelope. So I'm just kind of making sure that I have enough room on either one of those sides. So I'm just kind of tucking and going around. It's pretty easy. Let me do one more down here. Actually, I think for this one, I just did 2 leaves peeking out. Made it look a little different, right? So that's cool. Okay, I've got glue on my hands now from those leaves. That's okay. Look at, I've got red on my fingers this morning. I was stamping right before I did this live, and I was stamping with red ink, and I was actually, I think my problem was I was like watercoloring too, and so I got a little inky this morning, and red sometimes doesn't come off the fingers too easily, so I'm a true paper crafter. I am right in there. One of these days, maybe I'll get it together and have my nails done, and you'll be like, those aren't your hands. My fingernails are never done. I know. I wish I'd be more put together, but maybe some of you can relate that aren't well put together. So I'm hovering this over here and just kind of figuring out where I want it. I want it somewhat centered, but it is a little asymmetrical because one flower is higher than the other. Oh, tap that down. So a couple things I still want to do to add a little bit of something to the card. I'm going to take Pearl Jewels, just scrub them on the end of my paper piercing tool, and put one in the center of each of these. Lift off like that. And then I want to add a bow, and I just tied this bow with some, it's Whisper White Classic Weave ribbon. And where did my glue dots go? Across the room. I need to find a place to put my adhesive closer to me because I'm always like reaching across the room. That should be my little goal. I need to create myself a little little place for adhesive close to me. So I'm just going to take a glue dot, put it on the back of my bow, and then I'll just add it to my card down here at the bottom. And there is the card. Pretty easy peasy, huh? And there's the card I made originally. So, you know, not a super hard card. I really like this thank you. And I like the flowers too. I think it's a nice combination of everything. So I'll be sad to see Color Me Happy go, but I can't wait for the new catalog. That will be cool too. So let me scroll, see if there were any questions or any comments I need to address. Welcome to everyone that joined me this morning. Oh, I'm glad that people are watching while they're getting ready for work. That's awesome. Okay, well, let me turn you guys back around. I know that probably more people watch me after the fact than watch me during 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Not everyone can do that because you're going to work, and so if you're watching this as a recorded, thank you so much for watching as well. So what's on tap for this week? Oh, I have a new tutorial coming up this week that you'll definitely want to. If you like 3D things, you will want to see this tutorial definitely. So I'll probably have it posted by Thursday. I think I'm kind of a little tight for getting it up tomorrow. I'll be doing a regular YouTube tutorial for that one. So I'm making samples right now. That's why I have red ink on my fingers this morning, because you know, you have your design, it's really, really great, but then you also have to, you know, show people like samples with your idea, your brainchild, so to speak. So it's kind of like a process. You know, you've got a great idea, you execute it, you have to make samples. And so I was making samples this morning so that I could show them on the video as well. I have a few more samples I would like to do with this one. I think it's kind of a fun one. So make sure you check back later this week for that. What else is happening this week in my world? Just if you want to know, this weekend my son is going to the junior prom. Isn't that fun? We don't have as many dances and things like that for kids up here up north. So, you know, since we moved here, I think he's been to one dance at the school, and that's it. They don't really do them up here. In the south, you'd probably have like 3 or 4 during the year, and here it's like, you know, so it's a little bit different. And I'm from the north. I'm from Canada. I'm from far north, and I don't even know what they do there now. But here it's like the junior prom this week, so that's kind of fun. I hope my son will let me take some pictures, and if you're a friend of mine on my personal page, you'll be able to see some photos of my son going to junior prom. So that's kind of exciting, and it's kind of a crazy weekend because he also has a ultimate frisbee tournament. That's an away tournament, so he has to come back. He's not going to be spending the night away. He's like, we're picking him up and bringing him back, or someone will be picking him up, or, you know, so he'll be like tournament, prom, back to tournament. It's going to be a crazy weekend, but it will be a good one. So anyway, that's what's happening in my world. I hope that everything's good in your world too, and I hope you have a great week. If you like this card, if you want to know where to get the supplies for it, you want the dimensions for it, just click on the link in the description of this video, and it will take you right to my blog. If you want to join us on Casing Tuesday, there's a link for that. Probably any questions that you have, anything, you'll find the answers in the description below. And if you don't, just go ahead and ask me in the comments section, and I will try and answer your questions later. So anyway, have a great week, and we will see you next week, next Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.